ready to proceed. It's 6:39 on September 10th. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Monee Village Board. If you'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Holston. Here. Trustee Horn is not here. Trustee Pop.
Here.
And Racy.
Present.
Mr. Batista, I believe we have an invocation for this evening. Oh. Okay, wherever not. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
We'll work on that. Should be on.
All right. I'll speak a little while. Can you hear me now?
Test.
All right.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Just want to give greetings to all those who are present, Mr. Mayor, trustees, officers, and all those who are in attendance. Let us pray. Dear Lord, first of all, we thank you for your grace and your mercy and allowing us to gather together to discuss the matters of this village. We pray, O Lord, that you would give us divine wisdom, that we would consider each of our citizens from the greatest to the least, that we would have a sense of justice and fairness. We pray, O Lord, that you would give us compassion one to another, that we would be open to what we see and what we hear in this place today. And most of all, that we would have a sense of oneness, of unity, that will speak of a beloved community. Bless these proceedings. And it's in the name of our Almighty Savior we do pray and we do declare. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we have open to the public agenda items only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Come to the podium and give your name and address. Okay. Next, we have on the agenda is a consent agenda. The clerk has had a request to pull the item number 1, the minutes from the last meeting. There's some technical adjustments that need to be made in that, and so we would like to simply table that until the next meeting for that particular item. So what I'd like to do is entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda less the minutes, which will be then represented at the following meeting. So we'll table that for the second meeting.
So make that motion.
Okay?
Second.
Okay, Pop and Holston. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gray.
Yes.
Holston.
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Racy.
Yes.
And Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Your Honor, I've got 3 items which I think could probably be clumped together, and I've given you some information that maybe you would like to expand on regarding the November election, early voting volunteers, and the consolidated election as we're coming into the fall. There are a lot of things going on.
As it pertains to the voting periods and everything else, the Will County Clerk, I think it's the willcountyclerk.com, you can actually visit their website and get all the details, up-to-date information pertaining to voting calendar and scheduling. We can also make this document here, which is a summary of the upcoming election schedule. And there's also pertaining to the consolidated election. I believe packets will be available September 23rd. To be, you can start circulating petitions for any of the consolidated race offices at that time. Item number 2, I think, is what you're referring to there. Sid and Betty Dresbeck have done a phenomenal job of coordinating volunteers for our early voting process to minimize the amount of busyness and distraction from our staff here. And they did a great job in the primary season this year. It's the first time that I know of in Will County that there's actually been a volunteer early voting team, and thank them for that. If you're interested in helping with that program, with volunteering for that, please reach out to Sid Dresbeck, and he'll be sure to plug you into that schedule. What's it, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay. And it's usually like it starts 3 weeks before the actual election day. Something like that, and they take a week off almost or something like that. And also, if you want to get registered to vote, you want to do it before too long, if you haven't been registered yet. So.
Betty did also register us.
Okay. And I think Michelle is also in the office as well as Wayne. I think Patty is also. Okay, thank you. Anything else, sir?
No, we're going to try to put some of this information on the village website as well, so that we're pretty transparent. Anybody who wants to run will have the information.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. We've got, I believe we have, if we can jump ahead, I know we've got some that are going to take a little more time than others. And I believe it was under your report, Larry. Yes. Do we want to just go ahead and jump ahead to yours real quick? You had one item under yours.
Yes, Your Honor. We have one item under my agenda regarding a special use permit request from Mr. Bruce Young. Mr. Young's present along with his counsel tonight. They presented a petition before the zoning board at the last, I believe, Friday. They had a hearing before the zoning board. He is seeking a special use permit to allow for the installation of a spray paint booth in the existing building at 259-26 Chestnut. Proper notice was submitted to the adjoining landowners. Proper notice was published in the newspaper. I do not believe there are any objections at that point in time with respect to the audience. A presentation was made. It was proposed to issue a special use permit to the applicant, subject to some information regarding the environmental, which I believe he's already talked to the fire district chief. I know counsel and his client is here tonight for the boards. If there's any questions from the board, he is asking for the issue of a special use permit for his operation.
I just want to comment that I visited with Mr. Young before the meeting started, and one of the things that's noteworthy on this is not only they're doing restoration, but the building they're going to do this in is 105 years old, and their intention is not to do anything with the building other than restore that, correct?
Yes.
So we appreciate the fact that we can keep some of them in Monee's history while we're doing this type of adding businesses to the area. With that, I'd make a motion in favor.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Holston or Razik, any discussion on this? Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Holston?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Raisik?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Gray?
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome to Monee.
And then we bounce back to the mayor's agenda. Okay. There's an item in here for a pledge form for the Center for Economic Development, which we are a partnership with. And this is a request for our annual contribution to them for $1,000. Trustee Holston, I know you've been involved with the organization. You want to elaborate a little bit more because of, you
Yes,
did a business
they,
development thing?
Will County, of course, has been touted recently as the center of a lot of things that are going on that are very good about this area, one of which is we're now the largest inland port in the United States. And one of the major players in making that happen has been the Center for Economic Development. One of the
things they do, and as a member of the village board, I'm also a member of that committee and have been for about a year now. They're very active in bringing businesses into the area. The Budrick proposal that we're talking tonight came about as a result of their initial introduction. So they've been very proactive in trying to help all of Will County, including Monee. So this donation is nothing more than our contribution to keeping them. It is a private organization, but it is strictly for Will County, and they've been very proactive in helping us to grow our area of the county as well as the rest of the county.
Any questions about the, okay, I just confirmed with council on this. I believe because of the nature of the way this works and the benefit to our economic development, especially within our, this is what we're referring to.
No, I know.
Within our TIF districts especially is where a lot of this is going to benefit. He advised us that this could be paid for out of the various TIF districts as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to come out of the general fund. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve this pledge to be divided proportionately between the three TIF districts that we have. If that's
Correct.
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
okay, Holston and Gonzalez. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pop,
Yes.
Graysick,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Holston.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I could backtrack to what our attorney was talking about for J1.
J1, I'm sorry, yes,
For
sir.
Bruce
Yes, sir.
Young, we have.
I'm sorry, we didn't have an ordinance number. I apologize, you're correct. Clerk Hazer, could you give us an ordinance number for J1?
That'd be 1695.
Thank you. For some reason, I'm just a little scattered. Okay, sorry about that. Don't know what that is either. Next on the agenda, Brian Can, would you mind coming forward and giving a little explanation of the, I know you and I have talked several months ago. You've made a presentation, a couple drawings. I think some of this was conceptually illustrated from, I believe Mantino had a similar implementation. You want to expound a little bit on what you're trying to accomplish?
It's a simple request, Mr. Mayor and trustees. We'd like to expand or enhance the Veterans Memorial that we have out front. We've looked at several different locations to come up with an idea for Monee that would fit Monee, and we took a look at the Mantino facility, and we came up with a rendition of our own. We welcome any input, obviously, from anybody who would like to help us, but we're trying to stay within a proposed budget. So we're going to have to go outside to the private and public sector to get funds to help us put up this fitting memorial. And as we prepare again to go into war the way it looks, we need to remember our men and women in service and veterans in the past. So I think it's a fitting thing for Monee to do. And of course, we are in partnership with the village of Monee since you own the property. We went to 3 polls, more so than the 5 that's traditional, because I didn't want it to look like a windmill farm, because we have a very small area in which to work. And I think we can do a very good job. We'd like also to be the contractor. We have a lot of people in the post that are capable. We already have the concrete work donated, and we also have most of the labor donated already. So there'll be more of a as we get closer to getting it done. Of course, we're going to be informing the board as we go through with this, because it's going to be something that Monee is going to be proud of, not just our post.
Right.
So as we get the finalized plan, or plat, whatever you want to call it, then we'll go forward with our contractors and get it done. We'd like to have it done by Memorial Day next year.
Okay. Not real sure about the timing, you know, we want to move forward as quick as anybody else does on doing something nice. The cost issue, I know you're talking about trying to generate sponsors and support for all this. We are contemplating some things in regards to an overall park plan, and this could be part of that, which might mean we might be able to get some grant money to support part of this, which is incorporated as part of the overall park development area, because it is kind of contiguous with all the general park area there. So we will do what we can to expedite the considerations for all that, so we can include as much of that as possible. So Ruben and you can kind of review some of the common goals and everything in that regard, and I think it's great. I think, you know, from the board, if you have any discussion or talking points on this, but I think that to be able to honor our vets and our active military, it's, in this day and age, it's important. And so kind of a lot of folks in this area, they may not necessarily realize they take it for granted, but the gentleman that lives across the street from me is a recruiter for the Marines, and he was impressed when he came to our area how much celebration there are for our military in our region in general, which is not necessarily the case in other parts of the country. So I think that has a lot to do with the emphasis of the American Legion and veterans programs and things of that sort. So anything we can do to partner with you, Brian.
Thank you.
Brian, what's your budget for this?
Well, we're looking at around 15,000. That should be the top end. The poles run $2,500 each installed. The cement work, again, the cement's being donated, like some of the labor, so I'm not so sure. I'm sure that would be a top mark. Our post already has 5,000 appropriated.
So you're still looking for about 10?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll get with you there.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Brian, I'd just like to say thanks. I think it's an incredible thing, and whatever we can do, I know we will.
Oh, thank you, appreciate it.
And Brian, just so you know, you may have someone in there that is an electrician.
I know a good electrician.
You know another one, right?
Yes, I do, thank you.
Who is he?
He said a good one, right? Oh, just kidding.
Oh, my son.
He's already employed gainfully. Anyhow. All right, next item. Review and update status regarding Budrick. Larry, you want to address this?
Yes, if the board recalls, we had a proposal from Budrick, and those representatives from Budrick are here tonight. They're looking to propose to build their new development at the old, we call it Aunt Aggie's property. It's under contract to purchase the site. They proposed a redevelopment area agreement. It is in a TIF district. The construction would start October 1st, I'm sorry, would be completed by October 1st, 2015. The pertinent terms of the redevelopment agreement are as follows. One, they would be seeking reimbursement from the village in the form of increment of roughly $2.1 million. The total project cost, I believe, Chris indicated roughly $7.5 to $8 million. This is a pay-as-you-go TIF. There's no funding from the village per se. There's no bonds being issued. If they perform, pay their taxes, they'll get paid back from the tax increment, the real estate tax increment. They've agreed as of Sunday to to donate part of the land over to the village. We can do what he feels appropriate from the village standpoint with it. I believe it's roughly 23 acres. They've also agreed to deed access and 70 feet of the right-of-way for the length of the property.
Is it 70 or 80 that we talked about?
Pardon me?
Was it 70 or 80 that we
I
found?
believe 70.
I wasn't
We
sure.
thought it was 80, but it's 70.
Okay, just want to make sure.
They initially asked for, I think, 65% of the increment. They've reduced that to 55% of the increment of taxes to pay the debt of the 2.1. We are obligated, meaning the village, to provide the water line to the site by May 1st, 2015. I believe some work's already being done on that. With respect to the road of Industrial Drive to Sulphur Way, they will initially incur some of the costs up to $135,000. At that point in time, we are supposed to, they've asked us to reimburse them by January 1st, 2017, the $135,000. The lift station would be our responsibility. They've also would agree of some pretty stringent landscaping requirements that we're requesting, because this will be visible from I-57. They've asked us in good faith to try to extend the TIF district. In order to do that, you go to Springfield to get approval. That is not a guarantee that we would get approval, but they've asked us to try to use our best efforts to extend it. It is a developer's note, so it's a pay-as-you-go. There is no obligation from the village, like a general obligation behind it. It's, if they perform like they're supposed to, they'll get reimbursed up to 55% each and every year until they get 2.1.
50 or 55, sir?
Pardon me?
50 or 55?
55. They have submitted their TIF eligible cost. It appears to be in line. They are under some pressure from their seller, I believe, to make a decision on this property. I know they are here tonight. I believe if there's any questions from the board. I'm not sure our engineers had a chance to review it. I believe Mr. Batista has. They will enter into an employment hiring agreement like we've done with other developers in respect that hopefully Monee residents will benefit from job openings that will arise from this development. Presently, they're in, I believe, Roberts Road in Bridgeview, so they have been a long-established company. Again, they'd like to relocate to our village, but they do need some TIF assistance in respect of roughly $2.1 million.
A couple points of discussion. I think you've probably talked, I know these are their requests, and I know there's a couple things you were talking to their attorney about, one of which had to do with, we're not sure about the TIF extension, whether that would come to pass or not. So there's some question as to the practicality of guaranteeing an extension to them specifically on that. So I'm not real sure how the board feels about extending that. I think you would talk to Chris Bezia about setting it at the 8-year that's remaining on there. And that way, and then also if they decide, if they ultimately grow and develop and we do get it extended, they can always come back and ask for more assistance or TIF eligible increment if they double the space and all that they're proposing that they could do.
If I may, Your Honor, I did call Mr. Spezia. He was out today, but I did indicate in an email to him, I think the board will have some concerns as to an open-ended agreement pertaining to the length of the agreement. Like the mayor indicated, by law, if the state allows it, you can extend the TIF by another 12 years. That's if you get approval from the state. Again, like the mayor indicated, that is not a guarantee. It's something you gotta go down to Springfield for, and hopefully Springfield will see the wisdom and grant it. It's not an easy process, but you have the right to do that. The other issue would just be how long would if it is extended, like the mayor indicated, is the board wanting to cap the length of the agreement? They'll get their $2.1 million back, but you have the right to say either 2.1 or when the TIF expires. They're looking for the benefit that if we do extend it, they're asking for the benefit of that extension, which, you know, it's subject to negotiations.
Benefit meaning the balance of the 2.1 if it's not all paid?
Well, say the TIF expired, Trustee Holson, in 2025, just hypothetically, and he only got 1.5 versus 2.1, that's all they'll get. If you extend the TIF past that, then they'll get their 1.5, whatever it is hypothetically, plus the additional money until the board says enough's enough.
And just so everybody's aware of this, part of what happens here, the percentages, there's an increment in the value of the property that takes place. And this may be old hat to most of you, but just to reiterate it, the balance of that is intended to be used to offset some of our costs of things that are taking place in the area, the entire district, to bring in additional infrastructure. You know, we're talking about things that are going on in that same district that are going to be a cost to us that are going to be sanitary. They're going to be, you know, extension of road to Cleveland, and around that way, so we have an alternate loop. And those monies oftentimes come out of the TIF district also. So if some towns have made the mistake of giving 90% or whatever away at times, they have nothing left to show for it, and they have individual, spot development taking place, which really doesn't serve the greater good of the entire district. We met with the gentleman from Budrick last week, a very brief little encounter there, and there came a better mutual understanding that this has to be a win-win. We can't just do spot development and help one company, and we definitely don't want to spend money that's going to potentially put a burden on the residents or taxpayers by bonding for the development necessary to take that place. So what they're asking for is 55%, and there may be, Tim, I know you and I had talked at one point before about that if there was an extension beyond the initial years, you'd even be willing to take a reduced amount, percentage-wise, over the next, say, 4 or 5 years or something like that, even as a consideration. At least there's some hope and support from you if we need to go down to Springfield and everything else. So, at that point, you could reduce it down to, say, 30% for the next 4 years after that if you wanted to. That's a couple options you have. You can either cap it at 8 years, or you can just let it flow with whatever happens if we get it extended, or you can do a reduced amount for the remaining years of a certain number of years as well. So there's 2 or 3 options, and I don't want to create too many options because then we haven't, whatever. But Trustee Olson, I know you've been involved in some of the discussions on this. What do you recommend? I don't think we should leave it open-ended personally.
John Grueling, who's the president of the Will County Center of Economic Development, that we just approved the payment for, met with us last week and had some suggestions. And one of the things he did say that it's going to be difficult to get a TIF extended. However, he would support that, and he felt like because of the economic development effort we're trying to put in this area that we have a chance at that, but it's a chance. We don't know for sure, and we won't know until we try to do that. If I'm listening correctly, and if I understand this correctly, what they're seeking is up to $2.1 million.
Right.
And they intend to spend around $7.5 million, and ideally they'd like to get that in the 8 years left. But if they don't get it and the TIF is extended, they'd like to get up to the $2.1 million.
That's what they're requesting, and it all depends on how much the tax assessor evaluates their property worth and things of that sort. So there's variables like that.
I think one of the advantages to this though is by doing this, we're putting some sanitary in, we're putting some lift stations in, we're putting some things that will help the entire area.
But they're not paying for that.
That's correct.
That's coming out of the balance, in our case, of either motor fuel tax or TIF funds or general funds, which we want to be careful about how we spend it on that, because there's many things we need to do in that whole area to help our potential.
Correct, but this is a good first step because it does give us some assistance in putting that in, number one. Number two, it gives us a road, which I think we all agree would be nice to have over there, that will give access to that and should make it a little easier to bring additional business in at some point in time into that area.
Exactly. Some of the improvements are going to enhance bringing others in.
It'll be
our cost won't be as high because of what we've already put in.
Right.
So we're going to benefit if other companies
I don't think we can guarantee.
recoup some of that.
To answer your question, Mr. Mayor, I don't think we can guarantee it, but I think we have the same intention. I think we'd like to reimburse them the 2.1. It's just a matter of how we do it. And I do know that they're pressed for time. They really need a decision by us tonight in order to get their bank, who I believe has given them until tomorrow.
Okay.
Can I just
Yeah,
be
Trustee Gonzalez, sure.
just the devil's advocate once again, in extending a TIF district or extending the amount of years on TIF district. Yes, we want commerce to come to the village, then if we are extending either the TIF district or the amount of years to that, that's tax dollars that we won't potentially be able to see, for our schools, for our village, so I don't know if, yes, we need the infrastructure for sure, but yet making a larger or an extending a TIF district, again, we want to bring some, but just to realize on the other end of it, it benefits us if we can bring in development without having it TIFed, would benefit us even better.
But there's a counterbalance to that.
Sure, that's why I'm saying.
And if you recall, when I believe it was University Park, was it 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when one of their TIFs expired, and the school district thought, hey, we're gonna get an extra $1 million in property taxes. And then the state said, oh, since you're getting this extra property taxes, we're gonna cut you back on your supplement from the state. So they didn't get $1 million. I'm just saying there's
Well,
more.
there was variables that had nothing to do with TIFs.
Right. Right, but I'm just saying that there's more to it than just strictly.
Well, if this TIF is not extended, then they get what they get. So this doesn't change that. The decision to extend the TIF will be up to the board at that time and subject to approval by the state. That's a valid point. Certainly as a taxpayer, I have that concern as well. But as a taxpayer, I'd like to see more industry in here so that they can help pay taxes down the road. And I don't have any ban.
But the longer we have those TIF districts, there'll be less amount of time we have to collect them.
Yeah, I understand.
So what I would propose, as I had talked with Tim Johnson from Budrick, would be that we do a reduction for the remaining years. Instead of 55, drop it to say 35 for the remaining years. They'll still continue to get payout if it's extended, but it'll be less in the remaining years after for the 8 years of our current agreement. And if the TIF district's extended.
If the TIF is
If the TIF's extended, the years beyond the current TIF year, Larry, how would you do that?
What I would recommend is keep it until 2000, I think the TIF expires 2023. They have the right to come in thereafter if they're gonna do an expansion. I think what the mayor's indicating is that if they come in for an expansion, it's open for negotiations. It would be 30%, 50%, 60%, depends on the climate, depends on how the assessor assesses the property, depends how they're doing. So it's up for negotiations.
Right.
What we have to verify though, and I forgot to call Daryl, is when the TIF expires. I think Mr. Spee's got 2026. I want to confirm if it's 2026 or 2023.
I'm pretty sure it's 2023.
Okay. Because then that will give Budrick some idea. They should have an idea, knowing Mr. Spezia, they're very efficient, how much increment will be derived, so they'll have some idea for, they won't go into tax rolls for probably about a year. So if they're completed 2015, maybe by 2016, you'll see some increment coming in that we can pay Budrick with.
Yeah, and just so the general public understands, we're not giving them money that it's a rebate on taxes they're already paying. So if they end up paying an additional $200,000 over what the current tax bill would be of a couple $1,000s, then out of that extra $200,000, we would merely rebate 55% of that back to them according to their request.
Correct.
And that would be for the next 8 years or until 2023's tax year.
We would, however, if I understood this correctly, be responsible outside of this for $135,000 for the road.
That would be 100% reimbursement by January of 2017, so we got 2 years to pay.
That's coming out of where?
That could come out of motor fuel tax, it could come out of the TIF district itself,
Yeah.
but it keeps us from having to borrow money on the front end to
Right.
get that. And they were cognizant, the gentlemen from Budrick are very conservative in their ideology, if you will, and they understand the relevance of not burdening the taxpayers unnecessarily with their desire for development as well. So that's part of the reason why they recommended this option. Indeed, I remind the board that they're gonna, between the 70 feet along the side, along the 23 feet south of their parking lot, I guess it would be, it ends up being about 27 acres, which is almost a third of the land that they're acquiring is gonna be deeded, donated, whatever, over to the village. They'll get some corporate tax benefit from that, but ultimately the village will benefit from a possible passageway down towards Pauling. You know, it depends on what our development would be beyond that, so it gives us a direction of growth if necessary. So I think that, and along with the other point they put in there, I believe, was on sanitary, that they didn't want to pay anything for the sanitary extension. I know that we've talked about this, but the wording needs to be clarified. They're not going to be asked to pay, gentlemen, help me understand this, but they wouldn't be expected to pay the brunt of it, but they'd still be expected to pay any connection fees or recapture fees or anything that would be normal for anybody else that has to tie into that system. That would just be a normal connection cost, whatever those would be. And so I understand that you're not wanting to upfront the money for that. We'll have to figure out a way to make that happen. And I think the next item on our agenda will be dealing with engineering costs and things like that. But
Mayor, I think it's also important to state that, you know, Budrick obviously has been tough in negotiations, if I may say, and so have we.
Sure.
All right, and this isn't something that we're having numbers in front of us that we know nothing about. At least I've been in the loop on it, being involved with buildings and that. And Ruben and DJ and our representative, as a lawyer, we've been negotiating these numbers. The numbers you're getting, the 55%, was not the number prior to that.
Sure.
The 70-foot was not the dimension prior to negotiations. So things have gone both ways. This is not a split-second decision tonight. There are a lot of meetings, and we want to try to resolve this.
So Larry, I think, was there anything else that we discussed? Those were the main issues. The sanitary will be a normal connection cost. Ruben, do you have some additional points you need to address it on this?
We have to pay for the sanitary until we get,
Well, yeah, one of the requirements that they're asking, they're gonna run their sanitary, oh yeah, that's the other thing pertaining to the sanitary. Gentlemen, the sanitary will be according to engineering specs for the depth and the size that are relevant. We'll let you know what that would be, you know, the 8-inch, 10-inch, whatever it is, I don't even know that, but, so adhering to those standards, getting it to Industrial Drive, that'll be on you. So according to the elevation and all that sort of thing. And then, but the regular connection costs, whatever they would be for sanitary in that area. But they're asking that once they run the pipe, if you recall, animal wellness is one of those that was kind of orphaned as far as, we have to go pump their line 2 or 3 times a week. You know, we got this beautiful truck out back that comes in useful for a number of things, and that's one of the things we use it for. Ideally, we would like to have our sanitary in place, so it's not a stumbling block for future development. If we move forward with the next item on the agenda, we could potentially extend our sanitary from Governor's on Industrial all the way down to Budrick and Graylar, even make the turn back on the north, slightly north there. That would allow us to consider future development. It would require a lift station, but it would eliminate the need to have to go out and pump. You know, the pipe that's just sitting there dead-ended. What they're asking for is until we get to that point, it'll be a pretty long pipe, so it'll hold a lot of stuff. But they're asking that we would pump that in the interim. And I'm not sure what the duration would be for that, but, so that's the other request that they have for us. And we have the capability to do that. So, Mr. Batista?
You got 2 forms that we handed out from Tyson. One is the comprehensive plan. You've got a map of proposed infrastructure improvements, and then the second is the cost, the opinion, the probable cost of construction. If you look at the probable cost, you see a total there at the bottom of 897, 862.50, and what that is for construction only. To design it, with the comprehensive plan, the topo, and also in the design, the additional charge would be $115,000. So the total for the project would be $1.13 million, roughly, approximately. But now in that, if you look at the map now, the proposed infrastructure improvements, we've got the water main, which the board had approved back, I believe, earlier this year, to bring a water main out to Graylar, which would honor our commitment to the fire district, to bring water to them for the sprinkler system. That would also continue to the west along Industrial, but it also would, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, we would also bring water just north of that intersection on Whiting as well.
We would be tying on to the water main at Whiting, and then the phase 1, which what I understand the village would like to consider is installing the 12-inch water main down Industrial Drive and then north to service Graylar to satisfy that fire department requirement. but the proposal includes the design essentially for everything that's included in the industrial district infrastructure exhibit. So in the future, the village is ready when someone wants to come in and develop in the vicinity.
So we don't get too far ahead of ourselves, we'll go back to this point, but roughly, we're looking at about $1 million for the sanitary and water, construction, engineering, oversight, and all that kind of stuff that would go into all of that. It's roughly gonna be a little over $1 million to deal with all that infrastructure that would be necessary for any potential future growth as well as our existing needs. There would be obviously tap-on fees that'll be incurred for Dickinson's property, which will make that property more valuable. It'll be for Graylar, the sanitary, by connecting that in there, it'll take care of the Budrick development. It'll also help us with other future development east and west along that area. Currently, we have a lot of land out there that's not being developed, and we're actually increasing the potential value for development in that area by doing this, which this would all be potentially TIF eligible, and I believe we have adequate funding to make that step in that direction. In that area, we have, it covers 2 different TIF districts, so some of it could come for either or both. The engineering cost, I believe, for that entire prospect, we're not dealing with connection issues up there on Cleveland, where, right by Northern Builders, we haven't addressed that yet. But the cost of the engineering is about 10 or 15% of the overall cost is what you're estimating?
115 is what you said.
For the design.
Okay, and that included the initial analysis you had to do in the area all the way down towards Paul Lane.
That's the comprehensive planning. The drawing on the left side of the exhibit indicates the area that we would consider to plan accordingly, so that with these improvements, we would plan accordingly to service that area in the future, so we're not backing ourselves in the
Sure.
corner, essentially.
So let's go back to the Budrick situation here. I want to make sure, based on these considerations, the provisions we discussed that have to do with the sanitary, I want to see the gentleman from Budrick if I could, just so I can make sure we're all on the same page here, guys. So the bullet points that they provided us and the discussion's gone back and forth on this, so we all have a common consensus here. The points that Larry made with the consideration for the specifics on the landscaping, the general care of the area, like the old house is gonna have to be torn down, all that kind of stuff, you're gonna deal with all that. The specific number of trees and all that kind of stuff, they're gonna be stipulated out in that area, that's fine. The sanitary is gonna be the normal connection cost. You're gonna provide the depth and the sizing and all that up to Industrial Drive. They're gonna provide a 70-foot right-of-way dedication, donation, however we wanna label that, after the road is up to your property, then after that road is in, subler, as you're calling it. And then after that, the area south of that, along the east edge and along with the southern 23 acres, will be donated to the village. It's gotta be written a certain way. And then, are you guys okay with paying for the surveying and if we cover because when Larry helped me out on this, we need to make sure because this needs to be clarified as well. There's a cost we can waive our cost as far as the adjoining and subdividing of the whole parcel that's out there. We can take care of waiving that if they pay for the surveying and because there's required surveys anytime you donate property or.
We'll have to attempt to subdivide the property. The donation you make to us of 23 acres, we want a specific legal description and PIN. I can work with Chris on that. You'll own that one parcel, and then the 23 acres you'll convey to us, so we'll need to subdivide that property.
So even if you wanted to adjoin all the other, there's like 3 parcels on the papers. So if you wanted to adjoin those, we could waive the cost for that if you're gonna do all the surveying that's necessary for that. I don't know what the surveying cost is. A few $100.
Tyson's right here, they can tell you.
How much does it cost to survey land in order to just so we have an idea what we're talking about here.
Well, there's a lot of factors, it depends upon the size and
Well, you know, the 71 acres.
some areas. 10,000 maybe?
Really?
I'm not sure. For survey?
All right, well, we'll,
Right, yeah, somewhere, probably.
yeah, okay, but you guys just had a survey done, didn't you?
Yeah.
So maybe the survey can be done in such a way that it can be tied into.
The due diligence.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, so we'll figure that out.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I understand correctly, and I may note the different things, the only real sticking point might have been 2.1 million.
For the duration.
For the duration versus 8 years.
Right, and I'm thinking that, according to the conversation we had with Tim from Budrick, that if the TIF is extended, and I would want their support in going down to Springfield and lobbying with the legislators and stuff like that,
I'm sure
if
we
we
get
need
it.
that support.
They
But
want
we
the
can't do it
2.1.
ourselves, you know, I mean, so if we were going to get it extended, which we would, you know, we could discuss later what the relevance of all that, but a reduced amount of, say, 35% for the next 5 years,
It's open for discussion with Budrick.
all right, how do you guys feel?
We don't want to negotiate that out here in the public.
No.
Well, all right, that's fine, I'm just trying to say that there could be some consideration in that regard, but not necessarily, otherwise,
So at this point, they're asking for 55% up to 2.1 million in 8 years.
in 8 years. And we cap it at 8 years, we can do that if that's what you want to do.
If I may, what they're asking for, Trustee Holston, if we extend it, they want the benefit of that extension. So if the TIF expires again in 2023, and I got 1.5, they're asking us, if we extend that TIF for another 12 years, that their payments continue until they get their 2.1.
I understand that, but to be fair, as a business person, I am a business person, if I'm trying to make a decision on a site location move, the intent they're trying to get is 2.1 million.
Yes.
So the question is, are we going to work with them to give them 2.1 if we extend it?
Yes,
If not, we don't work with them, that's pretty obvious.
yes.
But I don't have a problem saying, yeah, if we extend it, we'll work with you to collect that.
The difference being is you can, after, and the discussion I had with Mr. Johnson was that after that initial 8 years, which is when they're going to consume the bulk of that, they can slow the rate of return
I understand.
to a different percentage.
I completely understand,
And it
but I don't
doesn't-
think we can decide that tonight.
You could. You could.
Well, it's
It,
partly up to, Budrick represents.
here's the deal, that is an item because it's not a negotiation, Larry, it's not labor land litigation in the regards of executive session type discussion. Unfortunately, that's one of those things we're stuck with because we're not acquiring land, if I'm correct. This either has to be an open discussion on that or not, but it's not an executive session.
For sake of clarification, though, I guess my point is, I don't believe, as a government body, we want to be negotiating today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now with anybody publicly. Those should be behind closed doors. And then approved in a public.
The problem is, because of open meetings, we have to be very careful about how that is deployed. You know, that's one of the things we've tried to do. If individuals, one-on-one in our group, were to have conversations, that's one thing. As soon as, because of the way our voting composition is, if 3 of us were to meet on that topic, we'd be in violation.
I'm not suggesting that, sir. I'm suggesting that the administration, the executive branch, if you will.
Sure.
And I am a member of the Economic Development Group, so I would be involved. Could those kind of negotiations, if we open that up to the public now or in the future, we're going to lose a lot of business.
Okay,
Because nobody does that publicly.
well, I understand. So we have a choice at this point as to whether or not we want to simply cap it at the 8 years, because they need direction on up or down on this.
Understand.
So my hope is, within the next 3 or 4 or 5 years or whatever like that, they're gonna see such phenomenal growth that they're going to have a desire to expand their facility, as, you know, we'd hope to double it or whatever else. And we're gonna get closer to a point where they're gonna say, hey, if you guys extend this, can we participate in an extension in that and help you get that extension so that we can then benefit from more growth and development in our area? Thereby, even if we cap it at 8 years now, I'm okay with that. If we just want to say, listen, we got 8 years left till 2023, we could cap it at that, and then we can negotiate beyond that for any future growth and development they're doing in their area.
My recommendation to the board would be that we do what we have, which is 8 years, when we say 2.1. If it is extended past 8 years, I can tell you right now, I'm in favor of the 2.1 because that's what they want. But we can't negotiate that if we haven't decided on a TIF. So I don't see any way contractually that we can help them with that at this point. But I certainly think what they're asking for is 2.1 million. If they get it in 8 years, fine. If they don't, then we will have to negotiate that if we have a TIF extension, which at this point we don't have. And we can't really approve something that we don't know is going to, 8 years from now, we may not be here.
Well, I was gonna mirror that exact point, because in 8 years, we don't even know, or if it's 2023 or 2026, hopefully it's 23, even if Springfield will grant us that extension, we're hoping they will, but and there was another point that you made, Larry, too. The second point was, remember?
Wayne?
Not really.
The 35 or 55%.
Or for reduction on the remaining years, if there was.
They're asking, at this point, they went from 65 to 55% of the increment, which is pretty reasonable. That's only based on their incremental property tax. There's no other increment coming in to pay them back. So they have more of an incentive than we do to get that project up and going.
It's based on their contribution.
Exactly. Again, it's a pay-as-you-go. It's very similar to LFI. The only one that we ever issue bonds for is World Kitchens. Everyone else is a pay-as-you-go. So they perform to get paid. If they don't perform, there's no obligation to the village.
So I'm going to ask, I think I know where trustee Holson is at, but, and I understand that the desire to move this thing along. Let me just put it like this, if I may. We got 3 options. We cap it at 8 years, and any new development would be a consideration for any potential extensions or whatever else that would take place at that time. And then we could just simply eliminate the consideration for anything after the 2023 tax year. That would be option 1. Option 2 would be we don't put any cap on it and we let the same rate of 55% continue through until they receive their $2.1 million. Option 3 would be they'll probably receive the bulk of that during the first 8 years, I'm assuming, at least half. Okay. Then the remaining years could be at a reduced rate, which means they ultimately would still get that $2.1 million, but it'd be at a slower rate, so we could then, if the TIF is extended, we could use some of those funds for other needs we have in that area.
Yeah, so you're saying that if we don't do the TIF, they would still get their 2 million, it would just take longer?
It would take longer, but they'd still get their 2.1 million. So I'm saying if we reduce it from 55 to say 35 on the balance of any extension, that would be option.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of them getting the 2.1 based upon option number 3.
Option 3, are we okay with option 3?
That's reduced 35%.
They'll still get their money, but it'll be.
I think it's important they get their 2.1. That's a commitment. They've committed to their part, we should commit to ours.
Just out of curiosity.
Yes, sir.
What if going from 55 to 35 and that 12-year extension doesn't get us to 2.1? Just doing a little math.
I think it's like about how much money you're going to spend.
Okay.
Just curious.
And that's the crux of a TIF agreement.
Right.
You know, oftentimes.
But there's no
you get-
guarantee there's gonna be an extension. We love the,
And
getting 8
frankly,
years
if
at 55% is great.
And if the tax assessor misses your property for the next 10 years, doesn't realize you've done any development out there, and your property tax bill doesn't go up at all, you're getting 100% of the difference, because it's not being incremented at all.
Right.
So you're not even having to pay it in, you're not getting a rebate. So the reality is, a lot of it has to do with how well the property taxes are assessed, and they identify the value of what you're doing out there. We don't know that. You know, if the benefit to you is, if the tax assessor comes in and says, hey, this is worth a lot more than you thought it was gonna be assessed at, you're getting an accelerated payback on that, which is a benefit to you. So, you may not get the $2.1 million back, but if you don't, based on what we've talked about, I'm guessing that your pocketbook won't feel any different as a result of whether it's delayed or you're not charged it in the first place. You know what I'm saying, if they have too low of a valuation of your property. So.
Just out of curiosity,
Yes, sir.
any further projects or new construction that we do, let's say an addition,
Could be
that would be
a whole
something that's
additional.
totally renegotiated?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It'd be a new redevelopment agreement for the new project.
Yes.
Because it's new development.
Pardon me?
Because it's new development.
Yeah, the northern portion of your property, the northern 15 acres that are currently where the house is at, that could be a whole separate development for that area there. And, so, okay, so, I,
Would
trustee
be
Gonzalez.
inclined, you know, by that last statement, option one, because then 2.1 million is important to them, is important to us, and then we can have the conversation if there's any new redevelopment out there about renegotiating a TIF district.
Option one was an 8-year cap.
It's 8-year cap.
But they wouldn't get 2.18 years most likely.
Right. So
That's the
you,
problem.
all right, so let me, I'm sorry, guys, bear with us, we're trying to do this open and full disclosure. All right, so we got two options that are being considered at this point.
5%.
The 55% with all the other concessions that we talked about, the 55% at a cap of 2023 tax year on the current district parameters, and you cap it off at that for the current development. We don't know what the payback will be. It might only be a little over half, depends on what the assessed values are. So they might only get 1.1 million or something like that for that time. So Trustee Gonzalez leads with that. I know you were, so I've got option A and option C, or 1 and 3, whatever. Can I get a show of hands if I can, just so I can move this forward? Bill, are you inclined to go with A or C?
Based on the body language by the body back there, option A.
Okay. Trustee Pop, A or C?
A.
Okay. Oh,
Body
okay.
language.
All right. Trustee Razor?
Option A.
Okay. Trustee?
C.
Okay. All right. Based on the consensus, we want to move this forward. We have a consensus, it seems, so I'm going to I'll entertain a motion, if I may, to approve the attorney working out the nuances of what we've discussed in a written form with the expectation that there's going to be an agreement for them to have everything we discussed here, which would be an 8-year cap. If there's an extension in the TIF district and there's new development that takes place, that'll all have new opportunities for new development agreement with new percentages and things like that. It gets us started. And are we okay with that, Tim?
Yeah, that's great.
Brad, Rory? Okay, all right. So
I will make that motion.
make a motion from Gonzalez,
Second.
second by Raisik. Roll call.
Trustee Pop,
Yes.
Raisik,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
and Holston.
Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, welcome to Monee. Thank you. I know this has been a trying time, but we appreciate what you're doing, and we'll work out the details as quickly as we can. We have the general direction. The actual agreement will probably be presented at the next meeting, but we'll put all that in writing for your attorney to review and make sure we're all on the same page here. So, thank you all very much. And I think your building permits will be ready as soon as you want them to be. Okay, all right. And I do want the public to know, Tim, help me understand this here, the approximately 27 acres, including the road and all that kind of stuff that you're donating back to the 23 plus the road, right of way and all that. That's roughly $250,000 in value that you're actually donating back to the village, approximately. Yeah, so we're giving them a lot, but they're also having a very genuine gesture of good community participation, and so I'm very pleased, and I thank you all. Brad and Rory as well. I know I've been talking to Tim more because that's who the conversation started with, but thank you all very much. I know this has been,
You're welcome.
we'll try to move this as quickly as we can. We started the conversation Memorial Day weekend. Let's see if we can get it done by next Memorial Day. How's that?
How long does permits typically take?
You want them
Maybe
tomorrow?
ready
You
tomorrow.
want them tomorrow?
I'll give you my business card if you have a problem.
We'll take care of it. We want to make sure that this is getting dealt with. We're gonna have to move forward on the next issue, which is gonna be the engineering.
Okay.
So we're gonna do everything we can to take care of it, and move it as fast along as we can. Now that we've reached an agreement, you know, let's get this thing done. So, thank you guys. All right, next on the agenda.
Steak dinner, I haven't
Oh,
forgotten.
Jim, enough already.
Enough already. Oh, I promise.
I know.
We did it.
All right. All right, yeah, Jim offered to buy a steak dinner for everybody here tonight, guys.
He doesn't have a village
That's
credit
this
card.
quote.
You offer my house for the drinks.
Yeah. Okay. Next item on the agenda. Item number 4, and I think I just lost Ruben. This has to do with the industrial district improvements. Just so y'all know, DJ, our superintendent of public works, is away at a water, public works, water, conference down in Springfield. He and Ed Johnson, so he's not here tonight, as much as he'd love to be here for every one of our meetings. He's busy doing the village business, even though he's not here. Anyhow, so as soon as Ruben joins us back here, see. Ruben, we're waiting on you. This is pertaining to our need for the engineering to move this project along so we can meet their expectations. Tyson's already been working in the area because of the stormwater. They've done some preliminary review of the area to get some general estimates for the overall costing of all this. This is mostly pertaining to the industrial drive improvements, specifically east to west, basically Governors to 57, and a little bit of a jog north for the interconnects, but not the whole complete loop around there. And I started giving that presentation a minute ago. We just need to see if there's any questions pertaining to what you presented thus far.
Essentially, the proposal covers a comprehensive study, which the diagram on the left on the exhibit, that area there, it plans the engineering and the infrastructure to accommodate that area with the improvements for industrial drive, the lift station, and water and whatnot, that we would be designing and installing initially up front to service Budrick and also Gray Line. Because that area that's hatched is lower and tributary to industrial drive. So whatever we design and propose and construct for industrial drive, we need to make sure that we can accommodate the other areas that's hatched in that exhibit.
Okay.
So the proposal covers the design of the water and the sanitary improvements that's on the right for the whole overall area, comprehensive from essentially Governor's Highway to the east over to Sunset and then up to Cleveland. However, depending upon funds available and projected costs, it can get scaled back. And it's my understanding that at this point in time, at least, the village is deciding to construct only the infrastructure that is required to service Budrick, as well as Gray Line to meet that fire department.
Budrick, Graylar, Dickinson, Animal Wellness, that whole stretch there, correct?
Right, well,
We're going east to west on Industrial Drive the whole length, I thought.
correct, with the design, correct. But then as far as what's actually constructed,
The construction is gonna go from Animal Wellness at the very least over to Budrick, correct?
it very well could, well, what we prepared in our estimate based upon our understanding was for White and Wade over to Budrick and up to Gray Line, which was the minimum essentially,
To deal with
in
but I
Budrick
thought,
and Gray Line.
but help me understand this, I thought we were also looking at so we can,
It's just short.
we're just short of Animal Wellness?
Right, the design will include all that, but the construction.
Okay, so the engineering is gonna be done regardless of what's constructed, so what we need right now is the approval for the engineering regardless of what steps we take in the construction phase of that. So the engineering's gonna include the lift station, it's going to include the design concept for all that, but the construction part of that is gonna be up to the board at the time in which we get a little bit closer to the build out on that, when we let it for bid and things of that sort.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
What's this quote we have here then?
So what is the cost of doing the engineering, the design part of that
The
then?
design and comprehensive plan, which includes the topography, the sanitary design, the water design, as well as the comprehensive plan for the topography, all is 115.
Okay, and that includes an overall analysis that goes all the way down to potentially Pauling?
Correct, that's the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so we have to have that in order to make sure we're not selling ourselves short on the little steps that we take.
Exactly.
All right, and I believe this could be paid for out of TIF funds as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the engineering that's necessary to deal with paving the way, if you will, for Budrick to get into their new home.
Make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
okay.
Question?
Yes, sir.
The quote we were given by Tyson Engineering tonight, preliminary engineer's opinion of probable cost of construction,
Yes, sir.
$809,862.50. Is that intended, I realize it's just an opinion, but is that intended, you think that's about what it's going to cost to do this project then?
To construct it, yes, from Whiting Way west to Sunset. And then the water main up to Service Gray or Gray Line.
And Budrick?
And whether, exactly.
Okay, so you're estimating it to be around 900,000. It's an estimate.
Correct.
Okay.
Preliminary.
And the engineer,
$115,000 engineering study then would help us to determine the actual cost. Would this encompass getting a quote, or are you just doing the engineering part?
The engineering separate, that's part of the proposal. That's the 115.
Right.
Which is not, this is the estimate is only
I
construction.
understand that. I understand that.
but at least the analysis will be there and it'll be documented, so that as we add on a little piece here or there, we don't have to reevaluate, oh, we should have dug a little deeper, we should have done this, or should have done that.
How long will it take to do your study, sir?
The comprehensive study, a few weeks, and then the design, probably 1 to 2 months.
So at what point will we need to commit to the actual cost of construction?
How soon will we be ready to put it to bid for construction on the sanitary or water's kind of included there, but how long before we'll be able to do all that?
Probably in between
What month?
3 months, maybe 3 to 4 months, by the time we get permits and all the field work and everything else completed.
Okay, and that still keeps us on track with our goals for, depending on construction season, of course, but,
That was my next question.
yeah.
So 3 months would put us into January.
Yeah. So how long does it normally take to deploy that area that we're talking about as far as the construction itself, once it's let? And we could let it in advance, knowing that there'd be a deadline on the construction company to put it in.
Right, probably 2 to 3 months. There's a lot of factors, depending on the depth, the lift station and other.
Pipelines and other obstacles.
But it's likely this won't be something that we could start then until April.
Well, with being water and sanitary, it's not as critical as if we put our roadway down, starts working in the winter months.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
good, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Trustee Racick,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Holston,
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Officials report, Public Works,
I have nothing like that.
okay. Parks and Rec?
I have nothing, I would probably just defer to Ruben, if he could just recap our wonderful weekend last weekend, if you give a 30-second.
Can you consolidate 3 days of, to 30 seconds?
Sure, outside of Friday, we had an awesome event. A lot of positive comments from the public. Probably the biggest thing that I think that we come out of it, besides just the event itself, is the volunteers. Just blown away by the people that came forward. I believe we had somewhere in the area about 85 volunteers for the weekend. No major incidents at all whatsoever. I think the biggest thing we had was some lost cell phones about it, so overall, I think it's just a success.
Good, good. Next time we know it's gonna rain that much, we're gonna issue bars of soap. It was a washout other than not having soap with us.
Would have been a good time for a giant slip and slide.
Yeah, other than the lightning. So, good. All right, thank you. Business development, trustee Olson?
I believe I've said enough tonight, sir.
Finance, trustee Horn is not here tonight. Building department, code enforcement, trustee Pott?
No report at this time.
Thank you, sir. Public safety and police?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We've already dealt with the attorney's report.
Yes, sir.
I don't know of anything under new business.
Actually, I just wanted to bring one thing up, and this, I guess it's new business, but going back to an old conversation we had. We had a conversation a couple months ago when we were doing our budgeting process, about some professional services and things, and about pertaining to our computer and our network administration. So I just wanted to just bring that up for a point of clarification and see. I'd like to make a motion tonight that we move forward in conjunction with the village staff in taking it, and securing some outside bids and looking for a network and computer administrator for the village hall maintenance project.
What?
An IT guy, basically, to take some of the load off of our village
You're talking about a
administration.
contractor?
Yeah, and we talked about it, and it was budgeted in our professional services. Like
Not a full-time person contractor.
It's just a contracted, and it's like on an as-needed, like a help desk kind of thing, and maintenance inside Village Hall when needed.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Larry, point of clarity. Is this micromanaging the administration of the village?
I believe there was prior discussion on it, Mayor. I believe trustee Gonzalez is asking for proposals. No final decision has been made on it. And so it's just a proposal to go out for bids, let the bids come in, the board can take a look at it, and then you can make a final decision.
Okay.
So Larry, if I'm right, there's a motion and a second, so we need to take a roll.
Did we even call for a motion though? I'm just trying to clarify. I want to make sure we're abiding by Robert's rules and everything else. So Larry, was, as a point of order, there's nothing on here under new business specifically that calls for a vote, number one. There was nothing that called for a vote other than trustee inserting themselves into making this initiative. I'm not opposed to finding somebody to minimize the amount of work that I have to do in that capacity, trustee Gonzalez. And as many of you know, I donate all of my efforts in that regard. I'm not sure what the seeming antagonism is towards.
Mr. Mayor, I think that that's inappropriate. Trustee Gonzalez brought up something in his previous business. If you don't want to vote on tonight, there's no reason we can't have it put on the agenda for the next meeting.
Hey, listen, I understand. I'm just saying that this is a matter of administration and executive implementation. If somebody wants to come in here and do all the graphic design work and do all the technology, I'll be relieved, trust me.
Yeah, that's why.
But the process of this, trustee Gonzalez, seemed a little bit awkward, that instead of talking to myself or the clerk to even get something put on the agenda pertaining to this, or even discussing it with the administrator or myself, to throw it in here the way it was, seems awkward to say the least. I'll just leave it at that. So if y'all want to take a vote, I don't know how that's actually by Robert's rules, considering it's not even a point of discussion listed on the agenda. But next time, if you have something you'd like to have on the agenda, let's talk about it, we'll put it on the agenda. But I think this kind of throwing things in like this and not having any prior discussion with the clerk or myself or the administrator just seems awkward at the very least. So
All I can, Mr. Attorney, did I follow Robert's Rules of Order?
I believe you're proper, trustee Gonzalez. There is no final action being taken. All you're doing is asking for proposals. The board can take final action on the proposals.
Thank you. We have a roll call?
Who calls for roll call? I'm not calling for roll call. Next item. I'm sorry, you don't play like that. I'm not calling for roll call.
You don't play like that.
No,
That's what you just said. You don't play like that.
correct.
As a legislative group, we have the right to bring up issues for discussion, which is what we just did, sir.
If it's on the agenda, did anybody request that item to be on the agenda for a vote tonight? No,
Then I would make a motion that we put on the agenda for the next
not a
meeting.
problem. Not a problem.
Need a second for that?
I'll second that.
I'm not sure, trustee Gonzalez, why the need to make things personal and challenge the situation, but that's fine.
There was nothing personal about it. It was a conversation that we had had.
Trustee Gonzalez, we know it was personal.
Can we call the question, please?
Yeah,
Call the question.
Attorney, are we all legal by doing it this way?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay. The motion's been made to put on the agenda next time.
There's
Do we need roll call on that motion?
a motion, yes, sir. Roll call?
Who's going to call for it?
It's your call, man.
It doesn't require a motion to have it on the agenda. It'll be on the agenda at the next meeting. There's no need for a vote.
Thank you.
All it takes is a simple request in advance, and anything can be on the agenda as necessary. Okay? Anything else under new business? Okay, open to the public, non-agenda items.
I'll be short.
Louder, please.
It's
Louder. No. This is my boss. Oh, hold on. All right. That's a bad mic.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Diane Reyes, 4731 Iris Lane. I like to know, saying so loud, I like to know when they're gonna fix. I'm having a hard time with this. Waiting for me.
I should have left her at home.
I can just talk loud. Sorry about that, Mayor. I can talk pretty loud. I'd like to know, when are we gonna fix Egyptian Road? That road is horrible. Monee Manhattan Road, going into Court Street especially. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, when I'm coming even from work coming southbound, I mean, I try to, I gotta watch, I gotta go to the left. I mean, it's bad. And then being a taxpayer, that road's been probably, it's getting worse and worse and worse. It really is. We need to do something about that. It's bad. And I'm not the only one, just no one else comes to these meetings and speaks up. Everybody else moans about it.
Ms. Reyes, over the last several months, there's been many discussions at the board level pertaining to the fiasco of Egyptian Trail. It has been a thorn in our side. We have paid an engineering company to do the work, found out later they weren't qualified, did subpar
studies, whatever.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it, it wasn't even to current standards. The village has lost 76,000, something thereabouts, as a result of the underperformance of that engineering firm. We are not using that engineering firm any further for that project. We had to move forward. We now have a reputable firm, Farnsworth, that is dealing with the Egyptian Trail project.
The Egyptian Trail, because I mean, you know how it goes from
Yeah.
there to there and to towards Heatherbrook. Right, that's kind of the Egyptian.
Yeah, the area.
You're not talking about that.
No, the only area of concern for Egyptian Trail is from Monee Manhattan Road south, including the intersection of Court Street, all the way down to Governor's.
Okay.
Right, so that is the area of concern. It has to do with stormwater management that is a concern, has to do with the intersection design studies that will take place at both Court Street intersection, where there's currently kind of a triangular shaped intersection there, as well as the interconnect to Governor's at the southern end of that. So all that is being now moved forward by Farnsworth, and I hate to tell you that no matter who the engineering firm is, at this point, because of the delays, it's gonna be another
Don't even say it.
2.5 years before it's done.
They have to redo basically everything the original group did. If they would have moved forward, and I'm part of it now, you know, I can see your husband shake his head, and he has every right to, because I live on that street also.
Yeah.
Moving
Especially when you
forward,
take
if we
school
would have
buses
just,
down.
if we would have just skipped the first phase and went based on what previously would have been done, it would have been a waste of time, because they would have gone back to phase one if they would have just started tearing the street up.
Can't just go after these people that.
Well, that's
like
not,
something in
that's
my
something
house.
we can't discuss right now. Bottom line is this, as board, we did reapprove the group. They actually were out measuring, I believe, 3 days after we approved to have them come in. They were out here on a Friday night at 5:30 taking measurements. And they were right back out here Monday morning taking more measurements. Those sticks that you see before the circus was going on, with the pink, that's all them taking the measurements. So,
And virtually every one of us drive that road every day, so we all
Right.
have the same opinion.
yes, you're
No,
not,
you
again,
know, we're all.
And just so you know, Route 50 was done by the same engineering company, so we know they know how to work with IDOT and the state and all that.
Sure.
So it's progressing forward now.
But, I mean, you're saying, let me get this right, okay?
No, when he says the same firm, not the same firm that messed up the first part of this.
No.
The
Yeah, I
same
know
firm
what
that's
you're
now
saying.
the same firm Farnsworth that was handling Route 50 for us is also handling,
Right.
now handling
Right.
Egyptian Trail.
But let me get this, I tend to repeat myself just to make sure that you're saying 2.5 years?
For
Yeah.
construction, from design to construction, it'll be a couple of years.
For that little bit?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, because there's a lot of stormwater issues.
There's a lot of
Yeah, I know,
money.
I heard you say that, I mean, that seems
And that's actually one of the biggest
unreal.
problems last year.
Well, that seems,
Yes, ma'am, but one of the reasons for that is that a lot of that work is being funded by state and federal money. And in order for us to get that money and not pay for it out of my
I
pocket
was
and your
just gonna
pocket.
say, we're not paid.
Right, it's being paid by the federal and state, we have to follow certain rules, and if we don't follow those rules, we don't get that money, and that's what's delayed it. We have to go back and re-engineer it, because if we had submitted this, as trustee Gray just said, if we had submitted it the original way, they would have shot it back to us, and we would have been in trouble. So now we're trying to make sure it gets done properly and right, so that it gets done right, and we get the money to do it, because I don't really want to have to pay for it myself, and you probably don't either.
No, not at all.
And what we might want to do, Mr. Mayor, is put something on the webpage, because this has come up every meeting, the last, 4 meetings.
Oh, other
The
people
different-
brought it
other
up.
citizens have
I know
brought this
a lot
up.
of,
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
friends that work with, that live in Monee,
Yeah.
neighbors.
You can see the previous meetings on WPAL.
Yeah, but we might even want to put up a special notice on this one.
Ms. Reyes.
And I need to add something to that if I may.
Yes.
IDOT was involved with the Safe Schools project, the sidewalk. And Mr. Big Mouth here said it would be done at a certain year,
I
and it
remember
was
that one.
done 2 years later.
Yeah.
Now, I was at a meeting at Gulf Vista, and I showed them the sheet of paper with at least 30 to 40 committees that the state requires that handles this through a procedure. You don't get from committee 1 to 2 until that's done. So this delay hurt it a lot, but there's no more delay now. It's gonna take a couple years. Sidewalk was the same way.
I remember that very clearly. The sidewalk is just unbelievable.
So that's our answer to your question.
It takes longer, but I go up to Governor's and go around.
Yeah.
Ms. Reyes, just so you know, I was willing to put a sign out there telling everybody who to thank in regards to the engineering firm, but I was shot down on that suggestion. So instead of everybody having to come in here and ask, they could have just called the engineering firm that was responsible for that. They thought that would have been a poor taste. I agree. But anyhow, so, anything else, ma'am?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bill Bailey, 6431 Spruce Court. I guess after reading the minutes, August 22nd, I didn't make my point regarding the parking ordinance. Basically, what I want to say is we have to have open discussion about this. None of you live out there. You do, okay, one. All right, but of the three people that talked on the 13th, Mr. Boggs, it was a bad situation. Mr. Robertson said it was a bad situation, but do not make something that becomes a burden for others. And Mr. Wells said it's a bad situation, and people were parking elsewhere and still going to the party. So this parking ordinance is not going to stop a rave party. The Chief Zipcar is the only one that's looking at it to get the ordinance in that will. So I'd like to have an open discussion about this and talk to the people out there, because basically you're telling me I have 5 people out there for 5 cars, I got to get a special permit.
Not if those cars have a vehicle sticker from the village. If all those vehicles are Monee residents,
Okay, I got friends coming out from everywhere
then
else.
park your car on the street, let them park in your
I
driveway.
parked my car in the garage. There's only 5 cars.
Okay?
Once you
Mr.
get
Bailey,
this
do you have another suggestion for us?
Get a nuisance ordinance in here. Parking ordinance is not going to stop people from coming to a rave party.
It will deter the problems that were encountered for
Then you
the
better
time being.
everywhere
It
else.
seems to have worked.
You stopped the problem with the rave party, shut it down. The parking ordinance did not shut it down. The signs just went up last
It
week
is,
in our subdivision.
Mr. Bailey, it's step one. It is step one. It is something we were able to do on a short notice. It was implemented.
Yes, but you're affecting 100 families out there that did discuss this. The discussion you guys had on this was, you brought up one subject about legal, something legal, and that was it.
Mr. Bailey, I had a discussion with a number of the property owners out there. I'm sure some of the trustees have had discussions with people who live out there as well. I know I did.
Okay, that's
And-
you can't.
I have
talk
too,
about
sir.
that.
I have as well. But I'll be happy to have a discussion with you anytime. You know how to reach me.
I would just like more people to be involved. Most people don't know about it. Even the sign out there, I mean, that thing's 10 inches by 14 inches, that's about it. And the only three signs I saw so far are in Gorman Park.
Well, we're waiting on the signs to get manufactured, so.
But I will tell you also, sir, that the people who are at the gas station tonight, all those cars are at the residence, have a different view. The people who tried to go out there, the police that tried to go out there and deal with that crowd have a different view. So this is done initially to protect the public. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But I'll be happy to meet with you. You know how to reach me, and we can look at other options. If there's a better option, we're always willing to
Chief
do
has
it.
the best option out there.
Well, we've yet to hear that codified by an ordinance prepared for us to review. But regardless, it's never a good idea to park in a cul-de-sac.
You brought up the 21 feet. You know, in that
I understand that, but from a
There's a
safety,
lot of other 21 feet around here. So
Mr.
better
Bailey.
we better be even with everybody, equal.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, 4731 Iris Lane, Monee. First meeting I've been to since the election. I heard a lot of nice things here tonight, but just my opinion here. It seems like there's a lot of hostility amongst our village board members. At least that's the impression I got. You know, it's the personal thing that Heidi here is kind of uncalled for, Mr. Mayor. But what brings me to tonight's meeting is I happen to be watching Channel 4, WPALTV Comcast Channel 4, and I noticed that there is a engineer, Farnsworth Engineering, I guess they're called, asking for another $9,000. And they, I guess them and a company named Robinson put in bids for a project here. And Farnsworth came in at $76,000, and the other company came in at $60,000, which is okay with me. You know, you pay the right money, you get the job done the right way, but apparently after asking for a little more money that they want, the $9,000 more, it come out that Trustee Halston asked Ruben here if there was a contract that was signed with Farnsworth to do that work. And from what I understand, after watching the video, there was no contract. It was a proposal that was signed. It really got me nervous because it's business going on in town with Monee, and that's not a good business practice or responsible business practice to just agree at a village board meeting to spend money without a written contract. But what scared me the most is how the trustees can vote on something if they're really not 100% sure what they're voting on. And the reason I say that is because it's pretty obvious it was a proposal from what I've heard and during the meeting, a couple of trustees mentioned, and nobody looked down to see if it was a contract or a proposal. I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if Farnsworth is legally binded to give us some money back, or is that the money we were talking about that we lost?
No.
Well, that's what makes me nervous, and after hearing this tonight, how business is being conducted, Monee, it seemed like a lot of not sure, wanna be, I don't know, 55%, 50%, you know, I just didn't, you guys kind of lost me on your business practices. But I did want to comment on that fact that I don't think it's professional for businesses to come to Monee and get approval from our village board without proper business practices.
I'm not sure what business practice you're referring to.
I'm referring to the.
Are you talking about the budget transaction that we just did?
No, no.
Because I felt like that was handled fairly well. I mean, it was,
No,
we're trying to move it along, so we have to have some.
Move it along, they're spending money in town, I welcome growth in Monee as well.
So exactly what is your concern? Are you concerned because of the situation with Robinson versus Farnsworth? They're both reputable firms. They both have the certifications necessary to perform the work and do it in a correct way. There's not a question of their certifications or approval or rapport with the state. Help me out here, guys. The reality is that there's nothing wrong with either one of those firms. They're both reputable. We'll stand by the work, the experience we've had with both firms. Not an issue. They both bid on it. They're both qualified. The bid was awarded to Farnsworth. And while there was some discussion about the possibility of one costing more, and then there were some later add-ons that were put onto it, it's still a decision of the board. That's not a bad business practice for the board to, you know, once they start with somebody, to stay with them as long as they can expect that the quality of workmanship is going to continue in there. Did I personally agree with it? No, and I think everybody kind of figured that out. But that's besides the point. We have no issue with either of those firms providing the workforce. And the fact that the board originally decided to go with Farnsworth and to keep from having to pay a cost of the starting point and then moving it forward and then maybe switching to somebody else and losing time, it wasn't relevant to do that. It was more relevant just to take some of the losses on that and continue moving forward, because of the very thing that your wife brought up is, how many more years are we going to wait on this road being done? If we're going to continue to hammer away and, well, I need a new proposal, or I need to do this, or I need to do that, all we're doing is delaying our progress.
I think Mr. Mayor, you misunderstood.
Well, you said business practices, so I don't see anything wrong with their practices.
What my statement was really on was, is it a proposal that was signed with Farnsworth for $76,000 or a written contract?
No, here's what happens.
I mean, was it or wasn't it?
Let me clarify, hold on, let me clarify. It was an agreement entered into by the village and the company. There was a proposal provided to the village. The board, according to our minutes, agreed and approved moving forward with that. It didn't necessarily require a written contract because we had the proposal. It was put into our records. That was what we had agreed to. So it doesn't always need a contract. Besides that, the fact that it's professional services, and if there would have been an occasional add-on or something like that, that's well within the means of the board or the village in general to to continue moving forward even without bringing it back to the board, but we do it as a courtesy. So the board and everybody's aware of where we're at on that. So there's nothing wrong with the practices that took place there. Yeah, please.
Mr. Reyes, a proposal basically is a contract. If they make a proposal, the board accepts it, that's an offer and acceptance. So a proposal, if I make a proposal and someone accepts it, that's a contract, and that's binding. So technically, does it have to be in writing? No. He put it in writing for a proposal, the board accepted it, that's a valid binding contract upon us and upon Farnsworth. All Farnsworth did was come in and indicate there's an extra, but they didn't deviate
What
from
was
the.
the extra for, can I ask?
Things that weren't
Is there
covered.
data that they weren't able to get, or?
Yes.
From the other companies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I guess, if you would've said that, last week, I guess I wouldn't be here today, because.
Well, it was said
Last
last
week
week.
was, you weren't sure if it was a contract or not, legal binding.
No,
It's a binding. If I make an offer to you, you accept it, that's a contract, and vice versa.
Once money's exchanged, it becomes a contract.
Well, once we
Not
agree
only
to
money.
it.
Once
we agree to it.
consideration's exchanged, it's a contract.
Proposals are nice, but, once money,
It-
until money is exchanged, a proposal,
We're-
it's just a guesstimation.
Mr. Reyes, we're still honoring the original agreement. The original agreement allowed them latitude of some add-ons if they incurred them. We agreed to that, we moved forward with it. The board was, I believe, unanimous on that
Who
decision.
oversees these projects that come into this town? Who oversees them? I mean, if, I'm not an electrician, trustee Pop is, he would have more knowledge to talk to a contractor coming into this town about electrical. I don't know, who runs the show here when it comes to people coming into this town to do business?
I believe the executive department does.
Yeah,
Who would that be?
our administrator,
Who would that be?
will go out for 3 bids. Our intern is Ruben Batista.
Intern?
Interim.
Intro.
And
And
may I say, I need to respond to that, if we vote 6-0, 6-0, 6-0,
What's that?
we get, all the trustees agree on something.
Oh.
And it goes on and on, we get criticized. When it's 4-2 or 5-1, you're criticizing us. I'm just saying now, we're not in discord with each other. This is an open meeting, and we don't agree on everything. And by the way, Farnsworth, unbeknownst to me, I thought it was only in a few $100,000. They saved the village of Monee $1 million on Route 50 by proposing that while they dug up certain pipes, this is land that hasn't been dug up for 100 years. So there's things in there we don't even know about. And that's gonna happen on the Egyptian Trail too. And we improved some of our infrastructure while the hole was open, inserting pipes, and we let them backfill and do all of it. All we did was insert the pipes. So we saved $1 million on that project with Farnsworth. They've been in this village for, how many years did we say? That's what last meeting? 8 or 9?
2011.
Doing some projects for us. They're very professional, and we have the same engineer heading Egyptian Trail that headed Route 50. So we're very comfortable with the extra money we spent. Okay? I just wanted to make that clear to you.
Okay.
If I could too, Mr. Reyes, first of all, thank you for making the comments, because we want to hear those things. I'm the oldest of 15. I come from a very large family. You ought to see one of our family gatherings. This is pretty sweet compared to that. Even though, one of the things about having transparency, which previously we may not have, is that we're going to sit here publicly and debate this.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you've been out there this weekend, you would have seen us all working side to side. We have the right, and we choose to disagree with each other, but at the end of the day, we resolve it by following Robert's rules and orders, by taking a vote, and by being on public television. To some people, they may not be professional. To us, it's being transparent. We don't always agree. The issue with Farnsworth had to do with making sure that it was something extra, and also making sure that we didn't slow the process down, because my point the last meeting was, we can't afford to slow this down.
Excuse me.
Let's move on.
I've heard the word extra a couple of times.
Yes, sir.
Now, I don't really think it was an extra add-on to work. It was data that they weren't supplied with
Correct.
to give
But that-
more of a better of a price
Yes, sir.
to the job.
Correct.
and
But
that's
in
why
contractor's
they're not-
language, that's an extra.
Well, no, it's
It is.
not.
Well-
An extra is when the client asks for something better or different or changes something. That's an extra. When the contractor
Mr.
get
Reyes,
something on.
Mr. Reyes,
That's not an action.
Mr. Reyes,
No, I-
respectfully, we're not here for a debate.
We're not, no.
No, I understand. The reality is.
We paid $9,000 more.
We did.
Thank you.
And,
And so it's $25,000 more than the other guy, Robinson.
yes, sir. But we're getting it done.
Wow, God bless you.
And Mr. Reyes, if they
That's
save
a lot of
us,
money.
if they save us $250,000 with their engineering, we're gonna be that much further
You know
ahead.
what the word F means in the dictionary? A lot of things.
Okay, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, sir.
members, thank you for your time today, and I don't know if I felt welcome or happy or whatever, but you guys gotta learn to get along. That's how you run this town.
hear a word I said then.
Yes, I did, yes, I did.
All right, Mr. Reyes, enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
He always leaves.
okay, I want to go on record as,
Do we have anybody else?
I'm just momentarily, Jeff, hold on a second. I'd like to go on record as being confronted in my errors. I was a little frustrated, and I'm sorry. It is not a proper way for me to interact with any of the other officials or the public. Mr. Reyes, thank you for being so eloquent in your presentation
Just an
of that.
outsider, Mr. Mayor.
You know what, the reality is, we try to move things forward, and we try to do it with passion. Sometimes in our passion, we step on others' toes, because we're all learning the mechanisms, the game, if you will, the rules of play. And Trustee Gonzalez, I have the greatest respect for your input and your insight. My apologies for assuming that there was a personal grudge, vendetta, whatever the case may be. I apologize for that. It's inappropriate for me. As a chairman of this meeting, it is unprofessional for me to talk to you or anybody else with that tone. I'm sorry. I'm still learning. I have to defer to council. You all defer to council. He is here to serve all of us. And when I'm wrong, I will do everything I can to admit that quickly and repent, if you will, of my shortcomings and ask for your forgiveness. And so that being said, I just want you to know I do respect your input and your insight. I would like to, if we can, have conversations in advance, and we'll work together on meeting your personal goals so they're not considered agendas or vendettas or anything else. We all have individual things that, when each of us were elected, we had things we were trying to accomplish, and I want to help each of you accomplish your expectations as well. And I wasn't joking when I said I'd be relieved to have somebody else deal with those things. I do take it personally because I'm hard to please in that regard. So it's going to be hard to find somebody who's going to meet my expectations in that regard, but I will personally seek out somebody that will meet my expectations. No, Mr. Reyes, sorry, it's not you.
That's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Because I know that's going to be a hard thing to do. So I will work on it. And with or without it being on the agenda, it'll be something that will be addressed. And I'll try to do it as quick, as expediently as possible. It is a professional service. I would be delighted to have somebody who is serving our village, not just the village hall, public works, the police department. There's probably technical issues they have over there as well that could benefit from somebody other than the chief doing all their technology, if you will. You know, it would be prudent to have somebody either on contract or even part-time or whatever the case may be to facilitate those needs. So we will work on that, and I really do apologize. That's not right. I'm sorry. Anybody else for open to the public? And be gentle. I've been scolded once tonight. I don't know if I can handle another one.
I feel sorry for you. Yeah, that's what you. Board, Mayor, Jeff Roop, JTR Energy Systems, Monee, Illinois.
What's your last name, please?
Roop, R-O-P.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask the board to be patient with me. I have a trailer parked on grass in front of my building. It's still full of stuff. I'm still unpacking boxes. Give me a week, I'll get it off of there, and I'll get some of the other stuff back in. Nobody has approached me yet. I just wanted to
appreciate it.
Yeah, I nipped it before there was a problem.
Chief, can we cut a little slack for taking them? You know, as we speak, Cockles is towing it away.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Also too is I wanted the board to consider a package that I handed over today. I want you guys to look at it. It's proposed some landscaping, some signage. My goal is to get any marked vehicle behind a park landscape.
Let me pause for just a second. A couple of the trustees were asking where your property is. Just so everybody knows, his property is.
Oh, I know where it was, I just
Okay.
didn't see the packet in which he was referring to.
Oh, no, I handed it in 2 hours ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It'll be in the next week's packet, I guess.
Yeah. I just wanted to.
Mr. President, George, probably that again.
His property is the old Cockle service station on the corner of Court and Governor's.
JTR, the thing.
Yep, and frankly, let me just, again, interrupt in here, I'm sorry, but I'm thrilled with the workmanship and what you've done to provide a facelift and a functional facility there that just, it looks sharp, beyond what I would have expected.
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think when you look at the proposal with the landscaping and the things that we want to do to move forward, it's really going to accent that. I mean, it's going to be a focal point of Route 50 for Monee, which is going to be I think, a tremendous thing. My goal is to get any marked vehicle off the lot behind some landscaping. I don't like fences, but maybe some shrubbery or so. I want to put some, I want to concrete the north end door, and that's where I want to park company vehicles that might not go home, or I can't put in the garage, so they're not seen from Route 50. I want the building to be seen from Route 50 with beautiful shrubs and lights and everything else. It's our goal here. And I also wanted to comment too, I tell you what, walking into the village, in the administration here, they're all professional, they're all working together, they're communicating. I mean, the difference is really astounding. I can notice it. I don't come here every day, and I know there's a lot of stresses in any kind of workplace, but somebody has seemed to lighten them up a little bit. I mean, the personalities are coming out. I really see that, and I want to thank you guys all for that, because it makes it a lot easier for all of us who are trying to do business in this town and are living in this town. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Does the Pearson Library have something to say tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Or dare we say the Pearson Monee Library? Anyhow, I know we've talked. Anybody else from the public? Okay. Larry or Ruben, do we have a reason to go to executive session tonight?
Yes, sir. I want to update the board on a couple matters.
Okay, pertaining to labor, land, or litigation?
Litigation personnel, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Okay, Raisik and Pop, roll call please.
Trustee Gray?
Yes.
Holston?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Raisik?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Lisa?
Thank you.